Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of Fairy and Flame where we have our friend Marguerite Insolia from Casa de la Madre and Mother of Daughters.
We're so excited because we are going to be diving into the Akashic Records, which is all about the cosmic secrets that you have in your records, the past, the present, and the possible future, and how you can heal those timelines.
And we're going to hear from Marguerite how to open the records, what we might hear, feel, or see once we get into those, and then how we can apply them to our current lives, whether it's in trust or truth or love. So
make sure that you lean in and listen to our 10th episode, which is all about
the Akashic Records.
Yes, I'm excited.
Here in the heart, here in the heart, here in the heart of space. Here in the heart, here in the heart, here in the heart of space.
Oh my goodness, I'm so excited about this episode.
I know.
All right, well, welcome to Fairy and Flame. I'm Casey Hodges.
And I'm Catherine Camsey.
And together we're building up the collective consciousness of our world one pot at a time. We are so excited to have my friend Marguerite.
And my friend.
Okay, Marguerite.
Ooh, that was whoa.
Marguerite.
We just went into like a different language.
I know, right?
Maybe it is.
Really hard because that's my sister-in-law's middle name, but I always say Marguerite. Say it, Marguerite.
Yeah, Marguerite.
Marguerite.
U-E-R, so it's...
I know her. She's my friend, guys. Calm down.
Yeah. No, I actually, I'm from Boston. People say Marguerite.
Yeah.
Marguerite. It's like, that's my name
Marguerite
too.
with coffee.
Yeah.
For
the donkeys. Yeah.
Okay, Marguerite. I did say it right. Insolia.
Yes.
And I have a long list of things that you embody. Actor, oracle, birth doula, herbalist, owner of Casa de la Madre, and founder of Mother's Daughter.
Wow. Mother of Daughters.
Mother of Daughters.
Yes.
So close. I had it all in there.
That was a lot.
That was a lot there. That's impressive.
I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to nap after that.
It's a lot. You have a lot of talents. You're so talented. Today, though, we're going to talk about Akashic Records. What they are, how to access them, what that means when you're doing your oracle work. We're going to talk about your new endeavor into the skincare world, which is awesome.
So exciting.
And your passion for that. We're going to talk about a little bit about the reading that we just had with you.
Was life-changing and amazing. And we were going to do like about 10 minutes and we did an hour and a half.
It ended up being the whole
Oh my
pod.
gosh, for
And then we
real.
had to have snacks.
And a nap.
And a nap.
Yeah.
And some phone calls. And now we're back.
It was
So
unbelievable.
Check on the
Unbelievable.
babies.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah,
We
thank
met
you
not
so
that
much for
long
having
ago through a mutual friend of ours, Christine, who was episode 2 of the podcast, Christine Thompson.
Yeah.
I hosted her birthday party at my house, and you walked in, and it was just like
Yeah.
instant.
Oh,
I
hey.
dragged you around my house, my yard. We talked.
Yeah.
I don't even know that I knew you. It was just
No, but I had been already told from Sarah Scarborough, who's
Another one of her.
right, that we needed to know each other. But I didn't know that when I showed up at your house that it was your house. I had no idea. And were you there for her party?
I wasn't. I
You
think
weren't
I was
there.
in England.
Yeah.
Wasn't I? Yeah, I was in
Okay.
England. Because she rang me and she was like, just made me best friend.
Seriously.
Like,
Yeah.
She's a Leo.
Yeah, she's a Leo.
Yes.
You're going to love her. We're going to have her on the pod. It was like a whole thing.
It was instant.
Yeah.
It really was. It was so good. That whole group was so great.
Yeah, and it's such a compliment to me when somebody says, "Oh, you two are really going to like each other," and then I like you so much, and then that makes me feel good because
Yeah. For like being seen
yes,
correctly.
exactly.
Yeah. Which I feel is a thing in this group here in Nashville. Like
Yeah.
women really want
group.
to connect. And it's like beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, ever since we've started this pod, we just keep meeting more. It's like growing and growing and growing. All these people, the amazing people with all of this unbelievable knowledge, and it's just super exciting.
And big hearts.
Huge hearts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just so much talent and information, and it's like every time I talk, even talk to somebody like you, I'm learning something, like something brand new, which I love.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to call this episode Akashic Records 101.
Right.
Because one of the purposes of this pod is that we were very intentional about not being too French. Not that we are, because I don't know enough to be French. But I want to invite people in a way that feels familiar and safe, and that they can trust us, and that we bring them this information with discernment, which we just talked about. And so I think this was the perfect episode to have you guide us through what they are. But before we jump into them, I want to know, I don't even know this about you. I want to know more about you, how you grew up, because it's always fascinating to me when we meet people who do this work. What were you like as a kid? What did your parents think? Did you play with dolls? Did you talk to things that were in your room? Like, what was childhood like for you? And now how did you, and all the way up to being here in Nashville?
Yeah, okay, so, it's like that I See Dead People movie, whatever, which I did. The Sixth Sense, yeah. So I just remember being a kid and saying to my mom that, like, why isn't everybody talking about this? And she would be like what? And I'd be like, well, there's, I walked into life and felt very much like she was my anchor. My father was an anchor. And that it was really loud and like very caustic energy. And so I was called shy. But really it was really overwhelming to meet somebody and they'd be like, hi, Marguerite, I'm your teacher. And at the same time, I'm hearing their thoughts in their head. And I'm also seeing the energy around them. And it's like, okay. Everything's fine. But nobody else seems to be talking about this or like noticing this. And so.
What was that visual when you say you could see?
So I hear, so basically over the years, I kind of calibrated my energy. So like I 100% came in almost like, how we talk about the veil thinning. Mm-hmm. Like I was kind of walking along the line of the veil and I could feel this world, and then I could also feel the unseen and hear the unseen. Oftentimes I'm clairaudient, clairsentient. So I hear, I feel, and then whatever I see often. But it's really those two, the hearing and the feeling first. And so it was a lot to like take in, and I kind of had to calibrate myself so that I wasn't overwhelmed all the time. Mm. And it didn't feel like overwhelm. It didn't feel like, it felt like a lot of what it felt like is confusion because people weren't talking about what I was experiencing as much. But thankfully my parents they did not make me feel crazy. They believed me. My mom was like, you would just tell us things all the time that we couldn't see. And we were like, okay.
Did your mom have that gift? Did she?
My mom, it's actually on both sides of my family, but because they're both, so my mom is Irish Catholic. My father is Italian from Italy.
Catholic?
Mm-hmm. He's from Sicily. And so, Sicily has like a really interesting, they both actually have really interesting kind of like traditional, this kind of work runs in the lineage, but it's also on top of it is Catholicism that says we're the number one channel to God. And outside of this channel, it might be wrong, it might be bad. So, for example, from my father, it was like, in Sicily, like there's superstitions that are around all the time. People really use them and take them seriously, but it's also kind of frowned upon to do that. So it wasn't something that my father like openly talks about, but my father, for example, when my grandfather passed away, he was about to pass away, he came to my father in a dream and told him exactly what was going on. You need to get on a plane the next morning. These are the people that are not allowed at my funeral.
Oh, wow.
And then he woke up and got a phone call from my uncle. But so these things were kind of accepted, but also they're not like forefront parts of my parents.
Right.
My parents are like major alchemists. They really know how to move energy. They know how to take nothing and make something incredible. They know how to like tap into alchemy. They know how to tap into magic and create because they really, really trust themselves. And that, I think, is the same exact thing.
So cool.
That I'm doing, really.
Yeah.
And then my mom is just very open-minded in that way, thankfully.
Yeah.
And she was able to translate what I was seeing into her beliefs, you know. So it was like she would believe me, and then she'd put protection around like my room at night and stuff, and kind of like just basically like listen and not make me feel crazy, which kept the door open for it to continue. But yeah, started pretty early. So started pretty early in the experiences. Like I would know, like I knew when my babysitter was pregnant before she told anyone. She'd apparently like found out that morning and then came to watch me. And I like touched her belly and said she was pregnant. My mom was like, we'd go to the grocery store and you'd be like, you're pregnant. You're like in the front of the cart telling people.
What do you see something, or do you feel it, or you hear it? How do you receive
The pregnancy
it?
thing
Yes.
is still to the point where I'll text people, like they'll be in LA and I'll be like, what's up? And you can never say congratulations before it's confirmed, right?
Okay,
but no, I can feel the signature of the spark of life. Like,
Wow,
yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah, I knew I was pregnant before any tests. I think that's like, we can often feel that.
Right.
But, yeah, the first time, and doctors told me I would never get pregnant ever. And I was like, I'm pregnant right now, bitch. I'm pretty sure I'm pregnant. And then, yeah, and my second baby, Mother Mary told me I was pregnant. That's how I found out. She came to me. That was the second time she had come to me. But she put her hand on my belly and said, I was in bed and I'd been crying all day. And I was like, why am I so emotional? What's happening? And Joel was like, go take a nap. I'll take Aunt Dean to the playground. And I'm in bed. And I close my eyes and I open my eyes because I hear my name. And I look over and she's standing next to me. It was the second time.
Wow.
And she put her hand on my stomach and she said, have no fear, you are with child.
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah. I know, even the wording.
how far along were you when that happened?
I was before testing ability.
Wow.
I couldn't test. Like I tested and it said no. And I was like, but I am. And then I used that conception from when she told me, I used that conception to find out when I was going to go, my due date. And so that's, yeah, I mean, I used it as if it was like scientific. And my midwife was like, so did you get a test? I was like, no, I had an apparition.
Yeah.
Mother Mary told me.
Yeah, Mother Mary told me. Thankfully, they were on board with that.
Yeah,
So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to hear stories from childhood?
Yes, yeah, I want to hear
So
it.
interesting.
There's so many stories, and I was like trying to go through. Here's a good one that I like don't often tell because there are some people are weirded out by it. But so when I was 5, I woke up. So we moved from one of our houses.
Where did you live? Where did you grow up? And
right,
what did your
so-
parents do?
So I grew up outside of Boston.
Okay.
My mom is from outside of Boston. And my parents had a business importing goods from Italy. It's called Italy, etc. And then they would import goods. They had that business. And then my father went into a different business also importing leather goods from Italy. And then he started manufacturing leather goods. And my mom was originally a nurse. And then when she had me, she moved into like having this business with my father. So that because the nursing schedule is kind of tough when you have babies, obviously. So yeah, they were entrepreneurs and they were like working really hard. And that's what I mean with that alchemist energy. They did not grow up with a lot at all. They don't have business degrees, but they just figured it out. They just like trusted themselves. And so it was me, and then I have a little brother, and we were in our first house. And I remember what I've noticed is when there's an apparition there, it's usually telepathic for me, that they're speaking to me telepathically. So I remember waking up and like hearing my name, and I turn over and my whole room looks like it's, old TVs where you turn a channel on and the channel wasn't there. So it's all this noise.
Like vibration. Yeah.
Yeah. The whole room was that.
Wow.
And I thought, oh, like, is this my eyes? What's happening? Like, I don't know. You're 5. I was 5. I was just trying to understand everything, right? And then I'm looking and it's coming together. The noise is coming together and it's forming kind of a form and then dissipating again. And I was mostly like just kind of confused, but watching, and it didn't feel negative. It felt very kind of like neutral. It also didn't feel angelic or anything like that. Like I had like I just see things. So I had experiences with kind of like seeing things in church and maybe like seeing like fields off of people and
Angels?
no, I have not seen like what I would specifically call an angel, but I like when someone speaks sometimes if they're saying something that they feel really strongly with, I can see the energy of that come out of them sometimes. Wow. And so this felt, and I had not had any like negative experiences, but you know, at that point with energies, but this didn't feel like God. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
It felt like something different, and I was trying to figure it out, and I could tell that it was trying to figure me out too, which was actually really like off-putting.
Right.
And it kind of started moving, and it was like making a form, and I did not know what aliens were, by the way. I'd never heard of that.
I didn't know this was going to be an alien.
Yeah, it was about to be an alien
You
story,
did not
guys.
warn Kat this was going to be an
Yeah,
alien.
yeah,
Triggered.
aliens.
Trigger. Okay, fine.
Is it?
Do you need me to
Ooh,
hold
is
your
it?
hand?
Yeah, I'll be all right.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
It's not bad aliens.
No. Okay, good.
It wasn't bad, but it was just it was strange. And I was kind of like trying to figure it out, and they were looking at me kind of figuring it out, but I could not see them looking at me. You know, I was like, they were coming into form and coming out of form, and they eventually started moving. There were probably 5 of them that were doing this.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And they started moving towards my window. And the whole time I'm in my bed, and when I realize and when I know that they're gone, I get up out of my bed, and there was enough light in the room that I would think it would be maybe like 4 a.m. or something like that. Like there was some light coming in, maybe 4:30 a.m. And I got up and I walk over to the window, and there is a huge craft in my front yard.
Oh my gosh.
And I can remember it like as if it just happened. I was thinking about it on the drive here because I was like, am I going to tell that alien story? I never talk about this. And I never talk about this one actually is because I told my parents about it. My father was like, no, that must have been a dream. And it was one of the first times I had ever shared. And really, even now, it's one of the only times I think that I've ever shared. I was 5.
5.
Because we moved shortly after that. So I was like maybe 5.5. But it's one of the only times that my mom was like, oh, that could have happened. But my father was like, that was a dream.
Yeah.
Because I don't think he fully believes in aliens. Or
Okay.
I would hope he does now. But
Yeah. He was on the fence.
yeah. I think he also was like, I don't want to be dealing with aliens right now. Like, no.
I got a lot of goods to trade.
Yeah,
on
yeah,
time
like,
for some
yeah.
aliens abducting.
No. But I looked outside and it was huge, and I was thinking about it today. It was like the color, it was this huge disc, and it was slate gray. And we had like half an acre in front of our house, and it was the entire
Oh, wow.
half acre. Like it was just, and it was super thin, you know, like really, really weird. And it was not doing anything. It was almost like this.
Was it hovering?
Nope, it was on the ground, landed there. And to the point that I was thinking, this must be a thing that I just don't understand. But all the adults must understand what is happening right now.
Right.
Like, there's a huge thing in front of our house. And the people driving by, maybe on their way to work, like they're going to see this. Like, what's going on? You know what it was like? It was like, you know, when people wrap their cars and they're matte colored?
Yeah.
That's what it looked like. It had no shine at all. It was the weirdest looking thing. And it was so kind of like, okay, I guess
you weren't
that's
scared.
happening. I was not scared. So I went back to sleep, and the next morning I was like, Papa, there was a big thing in our front yard, but it's not there now. Like, what was that? And he was like, you were sleeping.
Yeah.
And my mom was like, really? What did it look like? And I was like,
What did they say?
I didn't know about aliens. I didn't know about anything about those. And I think E.T., I don't know where that movie was, like in this timeline, but I had not known
Watched
about
it.
it or seen
Yeah.
it. Started going towards it. so my family's from Sicily, like right, my father's from Sicily. So I would spend summers in Sicily, and my cousins, my Sicilian cousins, when I was a teenager, gave me my first deck of tarot cards. Tarot is actually originated in Italy as a divination tool that could look like they were women playing a card game, which was fine, but women coming together to talk about God, spirit, divination anyway was completely against the rules. So they were allowed to use cards. They ended up taking a regular card deck and making it a divination. Saying like the knight will mean this and this will mean this.
It was
and this
code.
Oh,
It was code.
I
It was
didn't
a
know that. Did you
secret
know that?
underground thing. Yeah.
That's
It was really cool.
That's amazing. Yeah. So that's where it really originated.
That's where it
from.
originated in Italy. And so my cousins gave me this deck, and then it morphed into like, here's this card, and it means like we're going to be out in the open and have the lover card and the different archetypes, the major arcana, the minor arcana. But so my cousins gave me my first deck, and my cousins said, this is something our family does. The tradition is that you can never buy your own deck. It has to be given to you from a loved one. And they taught me how to read tarot. And, I was a teenager, and so we started it with the guy that I liked at the beach, whatever. And which is honestly a lot of my clients will just want to talk about, guys they're dating anyway. So, but so that was kind of, when you just like know something kind of almost like naturally and you don't make it important because it's so easy to you.
Yeah.
I think there's like a program out there that we have to struggle for the things that we're going to work.
Right.
I'm this and I struggled to get
Yeah.
here and that's why I'm good. And so I went to art school, and then I'm in New York, and I moved to LA and was acting. And while I was in school in New York, my roommate freshman year, her mom was a Reiki practitioner, and she would just call us randomly and be like, Jackie, Marguerite needs more water. She's dehydrated. And just little things like, oh, I think you're getting sick. Do this. And it would just be out of nowhere. And it was always correct. And so I was like, wow, that's so cool. And like, she does that, and she does that for her job. And it opened this door. So when I graduated college, I actually was dating a guy who was a painter. And we moved to Knoxville, actually, because he became a professor at Knoxville, at UT Knoxville. So we lived in Tennessee, weirdly. And while I was there, I studied how to become a Reiki practitioner. And it was kind of just like a day job thing. But I also had blocks around it, like whether or not I could accept money. And so I didn't. I just did it for charity for years and years and years. And so I was in LA and doing it for charity, and doing these clinics and not accepting money, and realized at some point, I just realized like, you need to come out of the closet with this. People come to you all the time for this. Why are you not sharing this and just being okay with it? And I had this idea that as an actor, I did a lot of comedy. As an actor, if people know that I'm also doing this, they won't take me seriously. They can only know me about this with this one thing. And what actually happened is when I started just not even talking about it, but when I started taking clients and being like, yeah, I do this other thing, my acting career started coming off because people could really like understand me as a full being all of a sudden. Like I was outwardly holding who I was, embodying myself more fully.
Yeah.
So it started with I have certifications, and I kind of like, in order to have permission to really move into this work as in a professional way, I had to have all the training, and it had to be A to C, like A to Z, and certifications to make it real, because this is like unseen work. And so it's like, there's so many voices around it of like, that's not real or whatever. And that would somehow give me permission. And I also really like learning things in like a really formal way, so that then I can find the freedom afterwards. But I did that with Reiki, and then realized like, because Reiki has like specific hand movements that you want to do. I'm the Usui lineage is mine, and I was just like always like, okay, I'll do it this way, but really I want to be over here. And finally, I just moved into doing my own thing. And then what I did with tarot, because I knew tarot, and I know it like a language, it's just like reading a book. But before accepting money for it, I put myself through this test where I became a California psychic. Do you guys know what California psychic is?
No, what is that?
So California psychic is those people make fun of it, where you can
The phone calls.
Oh,
okay.
and it's like a late at night thing or whatever.
you did
It's
that? Yeah.
So I did it on purpose for myself. You get paid like nothing, but I did it because it's like, first of all, most of my work is referral based. So I know the people, I know the energy that's coming in. They know me.
Yeah.
But California psychics, you're just getting anybody. You also have an alias. So I was like Guinevere, I think. I love that name.
I love that name.
It's Guinevere. And you just get anybody. And they call on this number and they choose you based on reviews. So it's all about reviews. And they're paying by the minute.
Right.
So you have to be like on it. And what it really did for me and why I did it for almost, I think maybe 4 months. But they're paying by the minute, and they don't know anything. They don't know whether they trust you or not. They're just doing this thing. It's not going to
It's like a blind date.
Totally. And you, as the practitioner, like on the other side, like you don't know what you're getting.
Right.
And there were some really interesting people. Really, I used to think like I'm going to write a book on this, but the psychology of some of this stuff. But basically, you have to be fast, and you have to be like confident, and you have to like trust what's coming through you and say it right away because you're on the clock for them. Mm-hmm. And also, they are cutthroat too. Like they will ruin you, if you're off.
They give you a bad
They
review.
give you a bad review.
Like, that's not true. That did happen. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. So what it did for me is like, I went into that being like, this is going to be your training ground. And you're going to have to move through all of your blocks, like any of the blocks. Because what happens, boot camp, that's it.
Yep.
Because what happens for me too is I will hear the other person. So if I'm in a space with you and I'm doing a Reiki session on you, I'm hearing you clairaudiently. It's a lot of information. And so sometimes for example, if I'm sitting across from someone and I'm doing tarot, I can hear what they want. They'll ask a question and I can hear what they want it to be.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And it's a lot of noise in between, and I would just have to you can't listen to what they want.
So
They're
you're not
paying
giving them
you.
what you want.
No, you
you're
have to
giving
give them the truth of what comes through. Otherwise, why are they paying you? Like, what are you doing? It would be more like, to me, there's nothing more mortifying than to do this work and to then be wrong.
Yeah.
Terrible. I could not. So I was like, also, and to be asking for money.
Right.
Right? Like I was like, you're going to do boot camp on this and you're going to be so good. So and so sometimes like I could feel somebody wanting to something, but I'm being timed right now. We're doing what's coming through. And it really taught me to go through all of those fears of questioning myself, doubting whether I was good or not. Because I was just like, these people can destroy you if they want to. So I did that for 4 months. And then I was like, okay, done with this. Opened my practice, made a website, had started telling people about it, and was mainly doing the Reiki work, the tarot work. I do cord cutting as well. I do pendulum work. I do clearings. I do home clearings. And then it kept on coming up, something about the Akashic Records. And I was like, I've never heard of that.
What are the Akashic Records?
So the word Akasha is a Sanskrit word, and it means ether. And so it is an etheric realm. Ether is actually an element. It used to be an element. They took it off. But it's an etheric realm, and it's so sensitive, this realm of energy, of frequency, that anything with any kind of energetic pulse will leave an imprint on this etheric realm.
So like a record. So like we learned this, didn't we? Like, so a land has, I think we asked you that, the land has a record, and plants have records, and anything
Rocks.
That's
My
everything.
ring, I opened the Akashic Records on my diamond before we chose it, Thoughts will be stored in the Akashic Records, emotions, even possibilities. So what's cool about the Akashic Records is I compared it to like an iCloud. It's like this, we can think of it as a cloud. We go up into this higher dimensional space, and the difference between the different modalities that I work in, right, is like tarot is a divination system that was created by humans to understand the vastness of what life is, of the human journey. But the Akashic realm, and so within tarot, we can ask questions that are very like strategic business kind of 3D things. We can also like look at what are the patterns here and get some higher vantage point information. But in the Akashic, it is all higher vantage point. So we're like moving outside of human life. We're moving outside of literally this dimension to a higher dimension. And as a practitioner, I'm kind of like bringing myself into the ability to access that information, bringing myself to the frequency of that frequency, and then pulling from it. So it's kind of like downloading from that iCloud.
Yeah. You also gave the analogy of Google Earth.
Yeah. And so I just was on Google Earth the other day, and I was like, oh, this is what it's like. Because it feels like, so in the Akashic Records, when you're doing a session, I will use the person's full legal name. And this is kind of like, I have permission, first of all. You always have to have permission. I don't ever work on anyone below the age of 18. I can work through like a mother to look at what's going on with their child, but I wouldn't open the records of someone younger than that. And that's basically not to move anything around, not to shift anything things that is already, you really want to protect that. But so you go in through that person's name, and then you're pulling down their record, and then within their record, just like Google Earth. So like you put in that address, and then now you're in their record, and you can see which kind of like vantage point you want to look at. Do you want to look at it from this human? Do you want to look at it from above? And you can like just move things around. So for example, if I'm working with a mom and they're asking questions about their daughter, I can look at the mom's energy. I can then call in the daughter's energy, and then I can see the information between them. I can see how the daughter's looking at that situation. I can see the perspective of the mother. And then because of the Akashic realm, time is all together. So we have past, present, and future all together at one moment. And so what's incredible about that is we can do super deep healing in the Akashic realm on even past experiences. So someone can have experienced something traumatic in the past, and we can go in and access that past moment and move things around energetically to then affect the present and affect the future.
That's so unbelievable.
Yeah. It's really cool. And then we can also see future events. We can see the possibility of future events.
Okay. But different timelines, because we can all, and so obviously there's free will in that, because you don't know where you're going to go, but you can help almost guide, if you like. In my mind, when I first started learning about it, and this might be wrong, but I was talking to somebody about it that doesn't know, and in my mind it was like, it's just this big book, a big book of records, information that you have. And am I wrong in thinking that it's agreements of things that you're going to experience in your life, or is that a wrong way of explaining it, or things that you can change, or so it's just stuff that's going to happen?
So you're saying there are agreements?
It's almost like a big book. So but before you come down, you're like, right, these are all the things that I'm going to experience. These are my records. These are the things that I've done in the past. These are the things I want to do in the future. Yeah. But now we're going to open it, and we're going to have a little look. We're going to look at the past. We're going to look at the future, and we're going to look at everything in between, and sort of connect the dots. Yes. And then you can move things around and be like, shine a light. Because you have a knowing. I know that we've worked together. You have a knowing about things, right? But then you're like, yes, you're right, and this is how you're going to go now. Yeah,
we can look at such a high vantage point that it's like, these are the opportunities available to you if you go down this path, if you choose this one, because divine will, like free will, is always there. Yeah. And I don't think I would work, and I would not be doing this work if there was some storyline around it being like set in stone, because that would feel yuck. Yeah. I would never want to share that, or I would not. But there's always free will, and then you can always shift timelines. Like I was in this shower this morning thinking about like, maybe I'll just shift my timeline. Like I don't know, maybe we're just gonna jump some timelines. Because the cool thing about the Akashic Records is like, you learn so much about time in them. That time is not linear.
That's what I was going to say. And if there is no past, present, and future, what you're pulling down from is just the energy of who you are all the time. Like that's just it's, if we take ourselves out of these earth bodies and we are our souls, which is what is attached to the Akashic. I mean, my experience as human Casey is part of my record, but really my soul has been through all of those different spaces in time, right? So you're pulling from that energy of my soul wherever it landed in Pioneer Casey of the plains, or, you know, whatever that was.
Yeah.
Nun Casey in the Catholic Church in the 1300s or whatever it was, right? And so when you're in the records, what does that feel like in your body?
It feels like, if, you know, physically, it feels a little bit of a dizzy feeling.
Is it that static vibration that's like a...
It makes me want to shut my eyes immediately so that I can like focus on that one thing. It can feel really tiring if I am in it for too long, because really what you have to do is you have to have the electricity. It's like the frequency. You have to hold a high amount of energy in order to hold the and translate the energy of this higher dimension. And so that can really like wear out your senses pretty quick and like wear you out. I will get migraines if I'm not taking electrolytes and stuff while I'm channeling.
Do you think all channelers are pulling from that same place? Do you think it's just whatever they call it, right? Whatever they're...
No, I don't. Actually.
You don't? Okay.
No. I recognize when someone is pulling from the Akashic, like Angie. I was like, when I saw her work, I clicked into where she was pulling the energy from, and I don't know if I told you, but I could hear what she was about to say.
Yeah, we're talking about one of our past podguests, Angie Arkin from episode 2.
Yeah, she's incredible. But I do think people are also channeling in different dimensions, which is why, or channeling from different dimensions. And
so where else would people be channeling from? If the Akashic is kind of the purest form of source knowledge.
Source knowledge. You could be channeling from a different being. You could be channeling...
From the Akashic?
Oh, you mean that they would be pulling from the Akashic? Maybe. I've definitely seen people channel where they're channeling different levels of entities.
Got it.
Right.
Right.
So do you have to be careful? So when you're going into it, you have a very...
The Akashic is nice in that I don't feel like... What you have to be careful about... You do. So let me go back. I always put protection and clarity around it. You do have to have awareness of going into this thing, and then I'm going to shut it down. Because I have before opened my records, and then my baby needs me or something, and I'm, 6 hours later, I'm like, I'm so exhausted. And my records have been open all day being like, what's up? You called. What do you need?
Butt dial, sorry.
Yeah, for real. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I never closed my records. So yeah, like even when I was doing that training, my teacher was like, sometimes, because you're not supposed to be doing like within 24 hours. And this is just kind of like a traditional way of looking at the records. The records have been around forever. Obviously. People have been talking about them forever in the Bible. I mean, but it's best not to have any low vibrational energy within your field. So I would never open the records if I was in a bad place emotionally. I would never open the records. You're not supposed to be like having any alcohol or anything for 24 hours before opening the records. Just because your energy is porous.
Right, it's too open.
Yeah, and it's like you want to make sure you really, and especially if I'm working with a client, I need to make sure I'm like really clear, really clean.
Can you talk about, just real quick, because I always want to dial this back, as my husband constantly reminds me, for people who don't know a lot about this stuff. When you're saying, like, you want to make sure energy is really clean, what is clean energy? And I'm not talking about solar power.
Yeah. I want to make sure, when I say clean energy, I need to be grounded. I need to be like, have my intentions clear. I can't be, I could be stressed about something, but I need to completely leave that there. Or, worried about something, whatever. There might be stuff going on in my life, but I need to be able to put that there and then completely clear my space, clear myself, and get focused on the one thing that I'm doing. Because like I said, it would be completely mortifying to
Yeah.
me to not be able to give if I'm doing this.
Yeah.
I'm doing this work,
Can I
yeah.
also give a simpler, like a metaphor? Imagine if you were having to make a big decision about something, right? Or, you know, I don't know what that would be, whether you're going to buy a house or not, or whether or not you're going to go on a second date with a guy. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
It reminds me similar to if, like, you wouldn't make that decision while you were at work, in the middle of a Zoom call, at home, the baby's crying in the other room, I forgot to take the dog out, oh, I got to cook, like, it's just about like any other decision or clarity or just being in full consciousness.
Yeah.
You want to do that in a space that you're like, okay, I'm going to take out all the worry. I'm going to take out all the fear. I'm going to take out all the noise of the day. I'm going to calm my monkey mind. And now I'm going to ask myself, is this something that's good for me? Should I do this? Should I go on the date with the guy? If we're going to help people understand what that feels like, would you say that's a good analogy?
Yeah. You know what it's like if you, for me, is there's like a sanctity in going into this level of information, right? Like to keep a ritual around it and to keep really pure intentions is helpful for not just us, but also to keep the energy clean as it comes in. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like walking in, when you walk into a chapel and you can just be like, oh, there's reverence here. There's silence here. Reverence. Having reverence is important for the records, 100%. I mean, we didn't go over this, but the traditional way of looking at the records and who someone like me, if I'm opening the records, who I'm talking to is they're called the masters, teachers, and loved ones. So the masters are the masters of the records. There's a book called Many Lives, Many Masters, and they're the same.
We read because you told us to read it.
Yeah, we read it.
Epic.
So
yeah,
good.
nice.
So
We,
good.
I think we've
Shout
got
out, Brian.
a book club in the making.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It is unbelievable.
Such a great book.
Such an amazing book, yeah.
And I'd read that long before I opened my records, and I recognized the masters as the same masters. So the masters came through to him and told him, we are the masters. And when I started, doing the training in the Akashic, and they were talking about the masters, I asked them, like, are you the same? And they said, yes, we kind of steward souls through their passageway, through their journey. So when I'm going through one person's records, those are the masters that have been with that soul and will continue to be with that soul.
So it's their soul. So if you're going into my records, it's not your guides giving you information about me. It's my guides talking to you about me.
Yes. So that's the masters. So it's clean that way too, because it's not, I don't know. I don't have anything to do. Like, I am just getting information from you in a really pure way. And then, so it's the masters, teachers. And so teachers are like ascended masters.
Yeah.
You know,
Jesus.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Mother Mary.
Yes.
These are some of your teachers.
Yes, these are some of mine. Archangel Michael.
Oh, I love Archangel Michael. Well, everyone loves Archangel Michael, but
Yeah.
so when you go into the records, so when you get somebody, say brand new, say when we did our first session together, do our guides get excited because now they get to access us in a way that they didn't before?
Yeah, well, sometimes they're like, oh my gosh, so please tell them what we've been telling them for weeks. Say it.
Yeah.
And the person would be like, oh, I was just thinking about that.
Right. Yeah. So it's learning to. It's funny because the card we always pull a card and we got the word trust today, and it's that word keeps coming up. It's trusting. It's always the right card, isn't it, Casey?
Yep, it's always the right card.
Trust yourselves. And
Yeah.
would you say? Well, does everybody have the ability to access their records? Is it something that you like? I mean, obviously you had training, but obviously you had that lineage there as well. So somebody like me that doesn't have like a lineage, could I? Asking for a friend. Could I learn to do it?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I think anyone can.
Okay.
I think we actually are all the time. All the time.
Do you think the Akashic Records are your intuition?
Yeah, I think basically that the information that we call intuition is tapping into the Akashic Records. I think there's probably more within that Akashic Record realm. But the intuition is us just being like, oh, let me just check in with my higher self. Let me check in with my guides. Let me check in with, because masters, teachers, loved ones is it could be your grandmother, it could be whatever, giving this message to you. Yeah.
So if someone was wanting to explore it themselves, what would be a good first step? So say tomorrow I was like, right, I think I'd like to learn about my Akashic Records. Is there a book I can read? Is there a prayer I can do? Is there something, a first step?
Yeah, so there's a book by a woman named Linda Howe, and she wrote a book on opening the Akashic Records, and it's pretty good. It's like you absolutely can use what she calls the pathway prayer, and you can do it yourself. What could happen is you could read that book and you could do that prayer and nothing could happen. And if that nothing happens, then you just know that you're not trusting yourself.
Okay.
Period. Like, that's it. Because we all can open, well, they just corrected me. So you could do that and it could not be working. And if it was that you were really trusting yourself and like doing your best, they're saying it would have to be things that need to be let go.
That's what I was feeling in that moment. Because if you've got somebody who's substance abuse or is in a toxic relationship or is not eating healthy, I mean, all these things are part of creating that clear channel, right?
Yes,
and
they can cloud the frequency. Yeah. And it really does, you really do need to be able to access the higher frequency in order to get it.
We talk about frequency a lot on this pod. And going back to frequency, it's in everything.
Everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so food too.
It's like when you eat it's just like when you eat too much sugar, you feel like shit. That's
the bad frequency.
I mean, not that sugar, but anything in moderation, you know.
Yeah.
Or if you hang out with a bunch of people that are mean or rude to you, low frequency.
It's gonna
Low
make you feel
frequency.
bad.
Yeah.
How do you we talk? Well, let me go. We talked about protection, but do you think? And I don't want to get too far into this, but are there is an element of light and dark in all of this, right? And so when you go into those records and there's something that dark that comes through, are you sharing that or how are you delivering messages that maybe people don't want to hear?
So within the Akashic record, within that realm, there's nothing dark. Like in terms of, there may be really hard things and traumatic things that come through and the information that comes through 100%. I went through my records and met a version of myself, a past life version of myself that fully freaked me out. Like, whoa. Very dark stuff. But there's not going to be like an entity or a dark energy coming from that realm because it's a high realm. But okay, so if I had a client and something came through that was really hard, I have had clients who have been really sick, for example, and they've asked if they were going to get better, and my records will stop speaking.
There's a discernment to the records then.
Yes.
They're not always going to give you...
Yes.
Or maybe is it the stopping that they don't need to know about if
That's what
they're
it is.
going to die?
That's what it is.
Yeah.
And then I kind of know what that answer might be. But I've also had people who have been very sick, and in the records they show me that they're going to be totally fine, and they show me that, and I show them, and I tell them. But I purposefully do not. If something's shared with me, I share it, because if it's being shared, then I trust.
Right.
That
goes back to trust.
They're able to receive it. Yeah.
Wow.
Sometimes, I've had clients where we're working through, for example, if I'm doing cord cutting work, I'll do like kind of like 3 cord cuttings for different things.
Can you tell everybody about cord cutting?
Yeah, so cord cutting is some of my favorite work, actually, but we have cords all the time. Like we have some
energetic attachments.
Energy flowing right now, and if we were like sitting here and we were doing this every day, we would end up having a flow of energy that would almost harden into a cord, and that would be how we kind of like interface energetically with people, with each other. People can have cords to experiences. People can have energetic cords to trauma. They can have cords to homes. And then it can feel really stagnant, and you can feel sometimes you can feel like this is a traumatic relationship and I can't get out of it for some reason. And so I'll go through the layers of energy and if I find that there's a cord, then I will basically very lovingly bring forth that other person. Let me go to a specific, okay. So I had a client who was in a relationship and there was a lot of emotional abuse happening with her husband, and she wanted to leave him, but she was terrified to leave him. They had a child, and we were looking at it, and I was asking her guides. I'll open the records often when I'm doing this. And they were like, it's in her best interest to leave. It's actually in his best interest as well. Usually it's always like that, you know? Things are reciprocal, whether it's actually what the other person wants in the 3D or not. You know, I would never do work where if I would cut a cord. So let me say, I'm strategically speaking to the other person, saying like, hey, there's abuse here. She doesn't want to be in this relationship anymore. Are you willing to let this cord go? And sometimes there'll be resistance and sometimes they're okay. Most of the time in those kind of situations with abuse, they're not, you know, there is resistance that we have to work on. But yeah, and so you'll burn the cord. Sometimes I'll burn it. Sometimes I'll cut it. And this is all obviously energetically. Sometimes I'll pull. Sometimes I had a session once where this man was pulling a cord from his ex-wife, and she had a really dark energy. And I have really strong boundaries of who's allowed to be in my space and what the hierarchy is of power in terms of I come here with light. There will be no disrespect to the light, all these things. And she showed up in my office, and I had my baby upstairs. And I was just like, whew, okay, I guess my boundaries weren't high enough for this. And I also did not expect that she had this like dark energy connected to her that was really not wanting to leave. And that's pretty rare that happens, mostly because I have really strong boundaries around dark energy. Yeah.
Gosh, what did you do?
I had to like take a second and be like, hold on a second.
You're talking about her energy turned up.
Yeah,
not
her energy.
Right. When she showed
yeah.
up, I had to tell my client to hold on a second, and I had to
Okay,
deal with kind of like coming out of a place of, you know, that's a whole different personality for me. Like now I'm going to war and you're fucking leaving my house. Like, I'm sorry. Yeah.
The Italian. The Sicilian comes out and hey, what are you getting? You gotta get out here.
Who you think you are, but get the fuck out of my house. That's a hard, and then having to come back, I'm just like feeling into that vibe, but then having to come back into being like, okay,
we took care of that.
Namaste.
Jesus. Yes.
She's gone.
She gone.
Wow, that's wild.
Yeah.
Did it work for him? Is he?
Yeah, he's good. They ended up having, we didn't talk about it, but when I was little, I had an experience that kept on happening where my bed would shake uncontrollably and I'd wake up and my whole, almost like an earthquake, but only my bed. And I had to like get really, really clear and really good and kind of learn again, like in a boot camp sort of way, how to deal with darker energy. I had never experienced darker energy before at all, and understand that the illusion of fear is used as a control mechanism in that kind of power dynamic, and that really calling in light and the energy of source will completely obliterate that energy if they understand that you have confidence in it. So
you just literally call it in. You're just saying, I'm calling this in now. I'm protected. You have no power over me.
Mostly like you have no power over me, and I'll place beings around. And
It's so funny. We talked about this before the pod today. So much of this chaos and anger that I think we see in social media or on the news or just in our world in general, obviously is all coming from fear, so that those entities can control. If you have someone in a space of fear, you got them.
Yeah.
You could do what you want, right? But for all of us to say, I trust myself, I know my light, and this is not allowed here.
no.
That's like, it's so simple. People can change the station whenever they decide.
Yeah.
But they get into that comfort zone of fear, and then guess what happens? It's like sugar or caffeine or nicotine. They want more of it. They get addicted to it. It's like and so it's funny that this is something that you're experiencing on your level, because it plays out in the 3D too.
Oh, totally.
It's
Yeah. And all it is really, like when it comes back down to it, fear is the illusion of being disconnected from like source energy. That, you know, if we even if we just made it something really simple and took the idea of God completely out of it, like we are little miracles walking around, and somehow like two cells come together and spark literal light. When they show conception, it's like a explosion of light that happens. Like that explosion of light is this life force energy that dark energies do not have. And so they're after it. They're attracted to that light, and that light energy is so much more powerful than fear. The opposite of that light energy, which is love, unconditional love. It's just like, woo, let me experience and create. Wow, this is awesome. And then fear is on the other side of it, the complete opposite. So if fear can kind of dim this light, then it has some
control. When if you think about every day, what do people fear most? They fear dying, right? So think of all the industries that are built around death. You know, it's like all of the prepper industry and the gun industry, and like there's a lot of industries, seatbelt, whatever. I mean, we all need to be wearing seatbelts, but there's just a lot of industries built around fear.
Fear sells.
It's exactly,
and that's why they use it.
But it's all because of death. But what if we knew if we die, that's actually when we start to live? Like that. Then what do you? What's there to be scared of? Right.
Yeah, nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah. So the death is just another part of living. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, it is the living.
It's
when we go to God. It's when we are. That's when we become one with God, right? So
that's magic when you have that realization, and when you realize that it's just dying is just another part of being here, and just another experience, and then we're off on our merry way.
When the lady comes into the room, you're like, get the fuck out.
Yeah. Get out. You called the wrong number.
I called the wrong number.
Sorry, wrong number. But when I've opened people's records when they're on the verge of death, I've felt that energy of where they are. And it's like, I know they'll pass when I can feel that they're, when they've let that light in enough, because it's like, it's too powerful. You don't want to go back.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
I do.
I've felt through them what that feels like, and it's not bad. It's good. Yeah, I think it's really good, actually.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Well, before we wrap up, I want to get into your new venture.
Oh, yes.
Skincare.
Mother of daughters.
Changing gears.
Let me change my voice.
Mother
too.
of daughters. So you are a mother of daughters. So you're doing all this oracle and wonderful things with your abilities, and then one day you wake up and you say, I'm passionate about skincare. Like where does that transition?
So in high school I started modeling in New York. So I'm from Boston. I started modeling in New York, and I've just been in like the beauty kind of, and then I went into acting, and I've been in all of that thing for a long time. And the potion side of skincare is like, since I was a kid, you know, and my mom, I think a lot of us are like that. Like even my daughter this morning, she got this bottle and she was like, Mama, I'm going to make some soap. And I was like, okay. And she was like, can I pick anything to make my soap? And I was like, anything over here. You can pick anything over here. So the potion making side of it is really fun, 100%. But really what happened is I've been doing all this work, and there came a point in 2018 where I just got hit, actually through the records, that I needed to start looking at birth work, like doula work. And so I did my doula training to be a birth worker, to like assist during birth, and loved it and was passionate about it, and found out during my doula training that I was pregnant. And really, as a doula, you're on that schedule of like a birth schedule. Like, so whenever you're on call, you can't have an infant at home. Like, that doesn't work. So I never worked with births, but I have that training, and I'm very passionate in the birth world, right? So then I have my girls. After my second daughter was born, we ended up leaving LA and moving to Maine for a little bit, where my family has, we used to go a lot as kids. And I started doing my herbalism training then. Then we got here. But during that time of having my kids and going from acting and being on camera a lot, and then having babies and all of the hormone shifts and all of the things that you really can't use when you're pregnant or when you're breastfeeding. I've been breastfeeding for almost 6 years. There are all these things, ingredients you can't use. It will go into your milk, or it will possibly go into and affect the child, the baby. So there are things I couldn't use. I was looking at myself. I was looking, especially after my first daughter was born, I was like looking in the mirror. I remember being like,
What's happening?
What's happening to my face? And having to make creations of my own that were safe to use. And I had already been making something I used to call balm. It was all these different oils together that my husband and I were using for our face, and I loved it. But really, when I became a mother, I was like, what are the ingredients that I can use that are going to help my skin that are safe? And I started creating from there. And that's why it's Mother of Daughters, because it's completely pregnancy and breastfeeding safe. It's as effective as retinol. It's clinically effective. It's like really, really, really good.
Your active ingredient is bacuchiol.
Yes. Yeah.
And love and frequency.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which
for real. And it's
I
also,
come from a skincare background. My most recent job was working at a skincare manufacturing company. So I'm fascinated and so proud of you for what you're doing.
Thank you.
And I'm excited for the free samples.
Yes.
I'm just going to put that out there.
Yeah,
I'm available for testing.
absolutely. Yeah.
What do you want to see the skincare company do? What's your goal for it?
Oh, there's so many things, but I want women. Really, the mission is for women. Because men can use it obviously as well.
We all have
We
skin.
can. Yeah, everybody has skins. I made it Mother of Daughters so that my girls could use it as well. It's not going to hurt anyone's skin. It will.
And that's great because kids now, my daughter now is obsessed with skincare. She's like, I've got to have this routine and I've got to have it all out. And I've even gone to the point of where I've bought her the stuff and I'm like, you can't use it. But when your friends come around, it looks cool. And,
oh, really?
Because and I understand that, she wants to. So I'm really excited for her to have something, to be able to show her something, your skin's so important. I said to her, in fact, this morning, you should be able to eat what you put on your skin because your skin is an organ and it's going in the bloodstream. And I just don't think people connect the dots with that.
No.
So I think that is unbelievable.
Thank you. Yeah, and I have it where it's clean for European standards as well, which
is a whole different level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's,
So I'm.
Do you have a birth date? Did the Akashic Records give you a birth
I
date?
know. I really should do that. It's so silly.
Yes.
When you do your own work and you just never use it on yourself. It's in production now, so I'm hoping that in the next couple of months I'll be selling.
I think it's brilliant as well because we recently did a juice cleanse and I've done loads of them.
I did the same one.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and I've done so many, and it was Casey's first time, but this one was different. And we were sort of trying, what is it? How many ingredients can there be? But really, when she does all of the cleanses, she puts a frequency into it, and she's putting love into it, and she's doing her singing bowls, and that makes such a massive difference. So to have somebody like you that understands the frequency, understands the importance of what are you putting together? You're not just shoving things in a pot, and there's such thought and consideration gone into it. So I'm sure it's going to be even more elevated because of that.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah, I think my lab is kind of she's crazy.
Yeah.
They're good. They're good. But I think in the beginning they were like, oh boy, okay. Yeah.
That's going to be so exciting. Thank you for opening the records too for us today. We're gonna
we've been here all day.
we're gonna have a little
live here now.
separate pod where you go into the records of the pod so people can see you do that, and we're gonna make sure we provide. Do you still take new clients?
I do.
Okay.
Yep.
Good.
Yep.
So we'll make sure everybody knows how to get a hold of you and.
So there's something to say about that. So my site is set up so that those sessions that are available on my site are completely remote. So they're available for you to work with me, and then you'll receive a transcript back, or you can email me directly, and we can be face to face and do the work that way.
Over Zoom.
Over Zoom, yeah.
Yeah, and that is not that's not allowed. That's like not on my site.
Okay.
Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or if you live here and you're friends with her, you can be in the same room.
And you've got a podcast, then you'll do
Yes.
it. Well, here,
Yes.
Get yourself a podcast.
Get
is what we're
yourself a
saying,
podcast.
If you want to have a one-to-one.
Thank you, Marguerite.
Exactly.
That was
Thank you,
amazing.
Kat.
We
It was
love
so
you.
fun.